It's been said by many men throughout the years that if a woman doesn't have a good relationship with her father, and you're a good man that's good at being a man, you're strong, you're virtuous, you're a leader, you're going to have a difficult time with a gal that doesn't respect her father or didn't have a good relationship with her father. There's a corollary to this as well, which I'll get into once I finish reading this, sort of expand on a little bit further. But for context, it reads, if she doesn't have a friendly relationship with her father or had an acrimonious relationship with him growing up, then she's likely to have a variety of daddy issues. Whether her mother pushed her dad out of her life, he set boundaries she rebelled against. This is very important. I'm going to get to this at the end. He set boundaries that she rebelled against, or that he was absent, or perhaps he was disinterested in being a dad and instead acted like a piece of furniture in the house. These are all correlated. She's not got a good relationship. He was disinterested. Mom pushed him out of the house. He had to leave. He was a bum. Whatever it happens to be, he just was mostly absent. Either way, any woman that didn't have a solid relationship with a strong masculine and virtuous father in her life will not value a masculine, virtuous, alpha, unplugged man. If she didn't value her father, what makes you think she will value you? I've counseled far too many men that have tried too hard to rescue women with daddy issues. It's never worth your time. Another area of concern with daddy issues is that it's often tied into borderline personality disorder, or BPD. This gets thrown around a lot, especially in the Mano Swamp. Guys will be like, oh, she's BPD. Or you get the guys that'll just be like, oh, she's got borderline personality disorder. It's not that hard to diagnose it. It's not as easy as you think, just pointing and being like, oh, she's messed up. She's got BPD. That's like the default that they mostly go to. But there's a correlation between daddy issues and BPD. I'll explain it. Women with BPD frequently originate from fatherless homes, which breeds their fear of abandonment. Remember, this is a fear of abandonment. One of the things that you'll hear out there is that it is very, very difficult to have a long-term relationship with a woman that constantly lives in fear of being abandoned, right? This fear continues until they become adults. Well, they would presume that they will, once again, be abandoned. And then they'll act out in such a way that will make abandonment certain. BPD women are so dangerous because they operate in extremes. They can be freaks in the sheets and immediately act like a classy lady in the street. The behavior's toxic, right? Like the massive swings in behavior from hot, warm, loving, caring to just frigid, right? A BPD woman can quickly go from hot to frigid cold. Such a woman can hook a guy by pretending to be a caring, loving, and nurturing woman. BPD woman can create the false sense of perfection that makes you say, wow, a woman who finally loves and respects me and appreciates me. Right? This is often what most guys arrive at when they trip across a BPD woman. I guarantee that if you're out there dating and you've tripped across more than a dozen women and you've spent more than a few dates with them, you've been with a chick that's got BPD for sure. The numbers don't lie. They say it's something like 1 in 5 out there have this disorder, this personality trait. And it's very, very difficult to deal with her on a long-term basis. It's going to be more than a handful. Let's just put it that way. Now, if you ask her, so you want to ask some sort of probing questions to get to the bottom of where they're at. So tell me about your parents growing up. It's a very straightforward question. You just ask a question, and you shut your pie hole, you open your 2 ears, and you just listen and let them talk. So you say to them, tell me about your parents growing up. Early on, this helps you to identify and filter out women with daddy issues. Remember, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so use them in that ratio. Ask, then listen. She will often tell you her story. I've had my fair share of experience with women who had daddy issues, and they're never worth your time, effort, or resources. A woman's father is her primary role model growing up and provides a foundation that governs her belief system. And that includes the lens in which she views both men and women and how they should interact. However, the origin of her issues is irrelevant because if she expresses disdain for her father, she is unlikely to value men. So, guys, it doesn't matter if mom was widowed, pushed dad out of the house, he was a piece of furniture. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, she rebelled against his boundaries. It just is what it is. Okay? Single mother households, especially feminist ones, which they're correlated, they pretty much go hand in hand, are a petri dish for today's women with daddy issues. A feminist identifying mother will instill toxic values in her daughter. Instead of valuing you, you will be deemed as a privileged male and you will be resented for your masculinity. Now, after my divorce, I dated a woman that had 3 older siblings. Okay, her mother became a widow before my ex-girlfriend was born. Instead of being just a single mom of three, she optimized her hypergamy and looked for a beta provider. She found him. She eventually had a fourth child, which ended up being my ex, with her second husband. And this woman died of cancer, something to that effect, in her early 20s, is what I understood when my girlfriend was, or my ex-girlfriend was growing up. And then when I asked her about her relationship to her dad, which is a very important question to ask, as I mentioned earlier, she claimed unforgivable indiscretions her father was responsible for. She painted her mother as a feminist saint and her father as an abusive, misogynist, cheater, and child abuser. Again, I've always said this to you guys, there's always multiple sides to every story. There's that side of the story, like person A and person B, him, her, him, whatever it happens to be. There's always multiple sides to the story, and then the truth lies kind of somewhere in the middle, right? If a gal that you're dating has a disdain for the father and a fondness for the mother, you're going to hear more of that side of the story. You're not going to get like the full picture, right? So you're not going to fully comprehend what it is, but you'll get some idea. So it's important to ask these questions. Discretions. Okay. While we were dating, my ex went almost 20 years without contact with her father. I thought that was so bizarre because I've got a great relationship with my dad. It wasn't always perfect, of course, because when you're a teenager, you always, push back, but he sets, strong boundaries on how to deal with them. So I always find it interesting when somebody you meet doesn't have a connection with a parent. Because, your parents are like, they made you, right? Like, you're there for life. They raise you. They take care of you. They invest in you. They put up with your bullshit. When the fucking cops come to your house because you're doing something stupid in a car and, they come out and they're shaking their head. Like, they put up with a lot of stuff, right? So I always find it's interesting that people that don't have a strong relationship with their parents, like, you want to get curious, right? Like, you want to ask why. Okay, well, that's interesting. So what happened there, right? Like, why was that the outcome? Anyway, so while we're dating, she went almost 20 years without talking to her dad. She unsurprisingly identified as a feminist, became a single mother of two herself, subsequently had little regard for men and masculinity unless it served to value to her and her kids, and then she dismissed them when she capitalized on the value. She was constantly battling an internal conflict to find a high-value man, as all women do, right? They're hypergamous. They want to optimize that and get somebody that's of greater value than themselves. She also resented masculine energy and claimed that men didn't subscribe to her solipsistic feminist beliefs. What did she call herself? I'm trying to think of the word. It was something along the lines of bleeding heart liberal or something like that. Right? It's like, if you go look up the definition of bleeding heart liberal, let me just quickly look it up because I think that was really funny at the time. Bleeding heart liberal, is that what it was? The true origins phase of the bleeding heart liberal. I've got a long ass essay here. I'm not going to read the whole goddamn thing. Eleanor Roosevelt. Okay, so this goes back into time, but anyway, so these like softies for these like victim ideas, because that's essentially what it is. Like, liberalism today, it's almost like a mind disease. It's almost like a cancer that spreads very, very easily. So bleeding heart liberals and those that subscribe to solipsistic sort of like feminist ideals will be, I talk about it in the book as far as staying away from the unhappy and the unlucky. It's one of the red flags. So I'll get into that because these things kind of tie in. Let's just keep going so I don't drone on with this one. Anyway, after my ex's mom died, she ran away from home to go teach English in Asia, partied through her 20s with a whole bunch of dudes, came back at her epiphany phase in her late 20s, married a beta male that pined for her when she was younger in college or university. So she basically, some beta liked her and she just go away. She went and partied in Asia, came back. He, of course, because he's available, said, yes, let's get married. She gets wifed up later on in life, around 28, to fulfill that biological clock, the epiphany phase where they start hearing, hey, lady, where's the babies? And then she divorced him like 10 years later, right? She didn't have a need for him. It's like, the whole commitment and sickness and health and richer and poor and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't mean anything to women that have daddy issues, right? They don't respect men. So it's like, you're very disposable. I mean, men are disposable in general. That's the way culture and society tends to deal with us. That's fine. Is what it is. But you're going to get an extra level of disposability if you're dealing with a chick with daddy issues. So the first time I came across this was when I was like scanning through comments. This was years ago, like 7, 8 years ago, maybe. And this video I made was titled "Three Women Men Should Avoid Dating." It was based on some women that I had dated in the past. And those three items were daddy issues, needing to be saved, fought with their children's father. Now, these type of women would never take ownership for their own lives. When I did that video on my channel, women with daddy issues sputtered their insecurities in the comment section. So here's an example below. So it's going to be harder to read on your screen, but I'll just read it out here. So this commenter, Pamela, head twisted side. It's always funny, like, you can't orient a picture like in the correct way. So in this one, it's like head tilted sides. Anyway, she's got the kissy face, all the makeup on, and she says, "So because my father decided to be a drug addict instead of a dad, I am not worthy of a husband one day, like it's my fault. Yeah, right. You are truly a dumb prick. Like a man could have done what my mom did. No man could ever compete with a mother like mine. I don't need a man to tell me how I'm supposed to be treated. Instead, I had a mom to teach me that I deserve the best and not to settle for some loser just to have a man around." Are you unplugging and seeing the code in the matrix when I talk about these things? Okay, this is the type of person that I'm talking about, which is, again, I mean, can you guys even see the photograph here? Let's enlarge it. Objectively, that's as large as I can get it. Objectively, you would probably see a photograph like that if you're on a dating app, and you'd probably swipe right. Objectively, an attractive face. But what's behind the scenes is a whole bunch of unresolved issues, which she's going to make her problems your problems because her dad was a drug addict and a loser. Well, her mom chose that guy. She must have known him to have been of that character when she got with him and had unprotected sex with him. And, along came Pamela as a result of that. So there's not a lot of ownership taken. So again, one of the things that you got to be incredibly aware of is chicks with daddy issues will often rebel and push back. No regard for men, no regard for masculinity, difficult to get any kind of like respect. And respect is huge for guys, right? Like one of the main things that all guys want out of a relationship is to be respected. And if you're dealing with a chick that didn't respect the most important male figure in her household growing up, if he was around, even if he wasn't around, what chance do you have? Like, it's an honest question. Like, what chance do you think that like you can save her, bro? How's that working out for you, right? I haven't seen it work out very well in the past. I've personally had experience with it, as I talked about, and it didn't. It's very, very difficult to manage a long-term relationship with a chick that does not respect her father. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.